Yo, what's good, people? You know what I mean? Shout our podcast. You know what I mean? We still under a little bit of construction and all that, but we'll be back soon. But I had to come up here and give y'all a little content, or what shall I say, a little insight. You know what I mean? Um, Scrolling the web, I came across something very disturbing. My home borough, Staten Island. You know what I mean? So I want to put this out there to all the Staten Islanders out there that's involved with the social media stuff and this content stuff. You know what I mean? If y'all sharing information with these bloggers and so forth, you know, um, give them accurate information. You know what I mean? Because there's people still out here grieving from situations and mourning situations and handling situations the way they choose to handle things. You know what I mean? So again, you're out here, you're giving false information, pushing false narratives. And what I've come to learn is what y'all doing is y'all creating more friction. You know what I mean? Some things can't never settle because of these false narratives and these false informations that's being put out there to these bloggers and so forth. So, at the end of the day, you can't really blame the bloggers. They just reporting what's been reported to them. You know what I mean? But you have to look at the bigger media outlets like the news networks, the Channel 7s, the Fox 5s, and the people of these different communities where these incidents or crimes are taking places and situations, and people are speaking on them, not knowing the facts. You know what I mean? So you painting a very undefined, detailed layer, which is causing a lot of friction and massive violence out there on Staten Island. You know what I mean? So I like to appreciate everybody who's been supporting the channel. We go be back. And we still building, you know what I mean, getting things still together, you know what I mean? We trying to stand out from the rest, we ain't trying to give y'all the same stuff over and over. As you can see, this content thing is kind of watered down now, you know what I mean? So we trying to revamp, recreate, and brand something so you guys to catch on to. But like I said, this one is aimed strictly for the people out there, Staten Island, that's giving these false narratives and false information to these bloggers that's publicizing it worldwide. And, in these situations, there's a lot of people still going through hardship, grievances, and loss of loved ones and stuff like that, man. So, we got to be mindful of things we putting out there, we spreading to these people, you know what I mean? Because things are not getting unsettled because things are still being mixed up with these false narratives and information. And you got people starting to think and tie in and, so it's not good, you know what I mean? But we're going to get into it, man. Today's strand I'm smoking on, something called Pineapple Piss, 33% sativa strand. It's a cross strand of Pineapple OG and something called, what's it called? Head rush gas. So, you know what I mean? We're going to see how that is. You know what I mean? I'm going to give y'all a second. Get your instruments of choice, your Fonto, your grapple, your Dutty, your Bob Marley, your backwood, whatever it is you choose to roll up in. Board the plane, sit back and get high with me. Yeah, so this is the video I came across with some misleading information within Staten Island. You know what I mean? Let's get into it.
Okay, we back out on Staten Island. Let's not waste any time and get right into this one. 2009. A shooting in New Brighton that left a...
Shout out Staten Island, man. Shout out the entire Staten Island, no matter what hood you rep it, man. Shout out to y'all, man. Let's go.
Port Richmond man dead and his Mariners Harbor pal wounded. May have been retaliation for the slaying of a reputed Mariners Harbor drug dealer the week prior. Kai Meek Sears, 24, of the 100...
See, I'm going to stop it right there. You see how they said already, may have been a retaliation. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? R.I.P. to everybody involved, man. Condolences to the families, man. Like, this is what I mean. Like, Staten Island, we got to do better, man. Now, man, we gonna talk about something, talk about it the correct way, have accurate facts. You know what I mean? Don't mislead people, man.
Block of Heberton Avenue, was found dead in a white Lexus on Yale Street in Mariners Harbor after being shot several times shortly after midnight. McKee, 23, of the 300 block of Grandview Avenue, was taken to Richmond University Medical Center, West Brighton, with a gunshot wound to the arm. Police described McKee as a Bloods gang member and said he was in stable condition. Initially, neither McKee nor the third man in the car, Andre Scott, of the 100 block of Heberton Avenue, cooperated with investigators. Sears and McKee were shot at York Avenue and Van Tile Street around midnight. With Sears gravely wounded in the front seat and Scott sitting in the back, McKee sought help by driving.
That vision y'all got, that's a look up a neighborhood in Staten Island called New Brighton. That's Jersey Street.
To a location on Yale Street, where a relative stayed. Allegedly, Sears and McKee were likely shot in retaliation for the shooting death of Jermaine Dickerson, also known as Big Den.
Shout out Meek, man. Shout out Den, man. Already they giving misleading information. You know what I mean? And that's why I say this is not good. This is not good, man.
And later, A. Kim Webster, aka Buddy Lee, would be named as the killer. Multiple sources described Big Den as a drug dealer with ties to the Bloods gang as well.
Again, people of Staten Island, what does Den have to do with Kamik's situation? Come on, man.
But if you know, his story is a little more than just that. In fact, Big Den is considered a Staten Island legend and was the leader of GKB, the Gangsta Killer Bloods. He had been putting in pain and getting money since the 90s. If you ever watched our Wu-Tang story, you would be familiar with the Christian brothers.
So again, here's a picture of Big Den and Ghost. Shout out both of the brothers, man. You know what I mean? RP did. Again, how do you put Meek within this situation? Those that know.
The Christians organization was under the Gangsta Killers Bloods banner until the murder of their leader, Big Den, at which point they moved under the Valentine Bloods banner led by Anthony Britt.
Let's bring this started right out here. This is Ann and Hall, legendary Park Hill guys. You know what I mean? Shout out 5-5 Bowen, man. You know. Again, how are these people being mentioned in the same conversation as me? And there's no disrespect to them at all. But when some people are telling stories, this is the extremity that they take. I don't know whether it's for clout or what, but this is how you get things mixed up and things that can never end, and things start to resurface and start over because people start trying to overanalyze. And
at which point they moved under the Valentine Bloods banner led by Anthony Britt. Following their June 2011 indictment, Britt flipped and was one of the star witnesses at the Christians trial 3 years later. As for Big Den, he was gun. It happened in front of 55 Holland Avenue in the Arlington Terrace Apartments complex. Let's do a little background on the murder. During the early 2000s, Dons and Derek sold drugs in Staten Island. Derek joined the Guerrilla Bloods gang, a set within the Stone Nation faction of the National Blood Street Gang, while he was in prison. At the time of his release in 2008, Derek was a high-ranking member of the gang.
See, this part here is some truth. So that's what I say. If you go get the truth, get the truth. Stop mixing and throwing curveballs in it, trying to enhance situations. Because what you're doing, you're really agitating and creating other situations. So be mindful of that, y'all.
And inducted others from his Port Richmond neighborhood, including Dons, Earl Manchin, Anthony Johnson, Elvis Burt, and Aaron Thomas. Over the next 2 years, the gang sold crack cocaine from Derek's house.
R.I.P. Fresh.
In July of 2009, a police officer stopped Dons for running a stop sign. Dons had approximately 5 grams of crack cocaine and marijuana in his car and was arrested. On November 6, 2009, Derek hosted two high-ranking members of the Guerrilla Bloods, Tyreen Harley, a GF Godfather from Brooklyn, and Joshua Demolier from upstate New York. Later that night, they went to a party at an unlicensed social club in the Arlington neighborhood of Staten Island. Members from the Nine Trey Bloods, a different faction, also attended the party, including Big Den, a high-ranking member. At one point during the party, Big Den and other members of the Nine Trey Bloods went to the back of the club to smoke marijuana.
So I see what was going on here. So whoever gave up the information, it looks like they mixed three stories and made it one story, which is not good. Which is not good, man. So if you go tell it correctly, man. You know, I don't think people mind you speaking, but talk the truth. Don't fabricate and extend stories, you know what I mean, and exaggerate them, because come on, man, this is not right. The world is seeing these people that's going through it, families are looking at this stuff on YouTube. You don't think it come across some people's timeline? I can't do that, man. It's not right, man. Think about it. What if it was you? It's not right.
Members of the Guerrilla Bloods group, including Derek, Harley, and Demolier, came to the back area shortly after. Manjan, a Guerrilla Blood, introduced Harley to the Nine Trey Bloods as the Big Homie, a high-ranking member of the Guerrilla Bloods. After exchanging Bloods handshakes, Big Den G checked Harley, asking him how he obtained his rank, who initiated him, and other facts about his membership to see if he was official. Harley answered the questions, but in a cocky and aggressive way. Harley returned to the party, but Big Den was skeptical about his claimed rank within the Bloods. About an hour later, Harley became angry and aggressive with a woman who spurned his advances. He cursed at her as she walked away and bumped into Elam Ginn, a member of the Nine Trey Bloods, causing Ginn to spill his drink. They argued, and Harley punched Ginn in the face. Ginn and other Nine Trey Bloods attacked Harley. Other Guerrilla Bloods tried to intervene, but Big Den held them off. A second fight broke out when Demolier sucker punched Diane Nelson, a member of Big Den's group. Nelson and others punched Demolier, who pulled out a gravity knife to defend himself. Nelson then shot Demolier, and the crowd fled the club. Once outside, Harley berated Dons and the other Guerrilla Bloods for not coming to his aid. After the party broke up, Big Den and others went to the nearby Holland houses and then decided to get breakfast. As they waited for a car, Dons and Derek, both wearing dark clothing and hoods, approached from the parking lot. They opened fire and killed Big Den. Police officers from the 120th precinct were at the social club and responded to the call for shots fired. Parking lot, a black Mercedes took off quickly, ran the stop sign at Holland and Benjamin, and almost struck one of the police cars. The officers turned on their lights and tried to stop the Mercedes, which turned back into the parking lot. The car stopped for a moment, and Dons jumped out of the passenger side and ran towards the Holland house.
Again, how was they given a play-by-play reenactment of the situation, quote unquote? Like, come on. Y'all giving stories with enhanced animation detail. Like, it's bad. Staten Island. Let's go, man. If we go do something, let's push our own shit. All right? Let's push our own shit, man. We can't, come on, man. Look what they doing to us, man. They already don't give us no respect. The fifth borough. And we can't allow this, man. Everyone's accessible to YouTube, man. Get up there and talk your facts, man. This is not right.
Houses. Officers Pina and Aguilo chased Dons, who tripped over a cement stoop and fell, and dropped a silver revolver. The officers handcuffed him and secured the weapon. Dons was wearing a bulletproof military-grade vest. Meanwhile, Don's brother, who was driving the Mercedes, fled from the car with an officer in pursuit. Derek fell from the rear driver's side and dropped a 9mm handgun. Officers tackled and handcuffed him. Derek was also wearing camouflage military-grade bulletproof vests and was barefoot. Big Den was pronounced dead at the hospital. The medical examiner who performed the autopsy removed a bullet from Big Den's body. The NYPD ballistics lab matched the bullet to Derek's gun. On November 15, 2009, In Staten Island, Mackay was driving a white Lexus, in which Sears was riding in the front passenger seat, and Andre Scott was riding in the back seat. A. Kim, while allegedly a passenger in a Ford Fusion automobile rented by his girlfriend, pulled up to the Lexus and shots were fired, injuring Mackay and killing Sears. Mackay then drove to his home at 44 Yale Street, Staten Island, leaving Sears in the car. When the police arrived, they found Sears' body in the car, and thereafter had Mackay transported to a nearby hospital. Scott spoke with the investigating detective, Girolamo Campion, at 44 Yale Street, and told him that he did not see the shooter, explaining that, just as he saw the gun, he ducked down into the car and then heard the shots. When Detective Campion initially interviewed Mackay in his apartment at 44 Yale Street, from which drugs were recovered. At approximately 3 a.m., another detective received a tip from an unknown confidential informant, identifying both A. Kim and Kyrie Henderson as individuals of interest in connection with the shooting.
This is just crazy. This is crazy.
Detective Campion thereafter prepared 2 photo arrays, one including a photograph of A. Kim and one including a photograph of Henderson. At approximately 6 a.m. on November 16, 2009, the following day, Detective Campion returned to the hospital after recovering the drugs from Mackay's apartment to see if Mackay could now identify the shooter.
R.I.P. to Hal.
Mackay had previously stated that he did not see the shooter, but this time, Mackay identified Kim from one of the arrays as the one that did the shooting. Mackay, while recognizing Henderson, told Detective Campion that Henderson wasn't there. These shootings was revenge for the shooting of Big Den. Crazy thing is, 2 days later, Henderson was found dead. He was in possession of a weapon that was ballistically matched to the shootings of Sears and Mackay. Testing performed on the weapon revealed the presence of DNA from several sources, most of which was contributed by Henderson, but which also included lesser amounts of genetic material from others, whose identities could not be determined. Mackay testified at trial and identified A. Kim, whom he had known since childhood, as the shooter. A stipulation was read to the jury regarding the results of the DNA testing on the gun. Other evidence against A. Kim included the ballistic match of the recovered gun to the bullets recovered from the crime scene, and the bodies of the victims, documentation with respect to the rental of the Ford Fusion by A. Kim's girlfriend, and records of calls made to and from A. Kim's girlfriend's cell phone. A. Kim's girlfriend, who was an alibi witness, testified on cross-examination.
Yo, this is just retarded, yo. How information could get spread and mixed and mingled and then put on the internet for the world to see. This is so misleading. I can't, it's crazy.
That, over the course of the entire night on which Sears was murdered, she may have been sending text messages from her cell phone to A. Kim's cell phone, while both she and A. Kim were inside of her 2-bedroom apartment. She further testified that, over the course of the entire night that Henderson was murdered, she had numerous conversations on her cell phone. Records from the cell phone company that provided service to A. Kim's girlfriend revealed that, on the night of the Sears murder, and into the next morning, A. Kim and his girlfriend were engaged in numerous telephone conversations on their cell phones, and not sending and receiving text messages, thus undercutting the girlfriend's testimony that A. Kim was with her in her apartment over that period of time. Additional records from the same provider indicated that the calls made from and received by the girlfriend's cell phone on the night of the Henderson murder did not involve A. Kim's cell phone. During summation, the prosecutor, in reference to the girlfriend's testimony, rhetorically asked, "Coincidence? Or was something else going on with A. Kim's girlfriend and her phone on the 2 nights of 2 separate and distinct murders?" Contrary to A. Kim's contention, that portion of the prosecutor's summation did not improperly suggest that A. Kim was guilty of the Henderson murder, which was not at issue during the trial. The telephone calls between A. Kim and her on the night of the Sears murder suggested that A. Kim was not at her apartment, and that the telephone calls to and from her cell phone on the night of the Henderson murder may have implicated her as an accessory to that crime. Why was Henderson murdered? Was it because he participated in the murder, and A. Kim couldn't afford anyone else knowing, so he knocked him? Don't know for sure. In the end, he was sentenced to 27 years to life. As for Dons, in relation to the murder of Big Den, the jury convicted him of racketeering conspiracy, murder in aid of racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder in aid of racketeering.
This is enough. That's enough. I can't even bear to look at it no more, man. Like, come on. Staten Island, we gotta do better. We gotta do better, man. We can't have these false narratives put out there on the barrel. You know what I mean? RP to everybody involved in that video I just showed you guys. But again, we all know that's like 5 different stories mixed up, painted out to be one story with a lot of fiction involved. You know what I mean? And this is one of the reasons that things and violence in the communities can never stop. You know what I mean? Because it's to be a lot of misleading, false information, and people are going through, personal feelings. You know what I mean? Whether it's 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, you know what I mean? People are still grieving, and family members are growing up that were young before. You know what I mean? And they hear these stories, and now they get to see this stuff all over social media, and whether it's false or true, if nobody is speaking up on it being false, it's misleading these people to react in a certain way. You know what I mean? So this is one of the things we got to do better as a whole community. You know what I mean? Especially us in Staten Island. You know what I mean? You already know how the rest of the people view us. You know what I mean? We can't have this on top of everything else like that, man. With that being said, man, appreciate everybody. Shout Out Podcast. We'll be back a little bit. We're still working things out. But again, till next time, peace.